Okay, thank you for attending today. My name is Nicole Rodenbaugh, staff counselor from the Council of Southeast PA. Today we're going to be talking about vaping and how vaping has become a fast-growing problem with teenagers and adolescents. Vapes are being brought into school. More and more staff members and teachers are seeing these devices around, which is really concerning considering all the chemicals that are in these devices and what these chemicals along with the nicotine does to the teenage brain along with the teenage body. As professionals, we are concerned about the consequences of vaping, and we'll talk more about that. And we'll also touch base on vaping and COVID-19 and how during the stressful time of the quarantine period and this pandemic, vapes are being used as a coping skill. So what we're going to talk about today, the myths and facts about vaping, potential health consequences, the impact of nicotine, and we'll touch briefly on marijuana on a teen's developing brain. We'll touch base on addiction and how the repeated use of a substance can lead to addiction, the importance of remaining substance-free, especially now as a teenager. You want to stop now or not even pick up these substances early on so it doesn't lead to a problem or addiction later on in life. And then we'll talk about where and who to reach out to for support, whether it's for you or for a friend or family member. So I want to ask everyone what you see when you look at this picture. Take a few seconds to look. So some people, when they see this picture, see a duck. Others see a rabbit. What did you see? Why do you think some people see the rabbit first and others see the duck first? Our brains are so busy trying to interpret what we see. I know for me, I saw the rabbit first. Some people can only see one. Some people can't see both, so that's pretty interesting. Our brain is the command center of our body. It's the most complex thing. It tells us what to do, what to think, how to move, when to move, how to react, how to respond. Our brain is responsible for what we feel, learn, think, when we blink, when we breathe, when we talk, when we move. Vaping is so dangerous for the still developing teenage brain because, like we said, your brain is still developing. How many of you know at what age your brain is completely, fully developed? Do you want to take a guess? So it's 25. So your brain is still developing, and it isn't fully developed until you're about age 25. So it's very important to protect your brain. Your brain has neurons and transmitters and different wires, and your brain is constantly learning new things every single day. So vaping is dangerous for the brain because of so many chemicals and because of the nicotine. It goes right to the brain and interferes with what your brain does and how your brain responds and how your brain works every day. Has anybody ever done anything that seemed like a good idea at the time? Whether your friends convinced you to do it, whether it was peer pressure, or whether you just got the idea and went with it. If you take a look at this picture, it looks like a guy on his bike jumping over 4 of his friends, and it doesn't look like he's going to land that jump. So have you ever done something you immediately regretted? Most of us have, and that's okay because we learn from those things and we learn not to repeat those same ideas or mistakes again. As teenagers can be very impulsive. Impulsive means doing something when you get the thought without thinking it through. As teenagers, again, with your brain still developing, it's hard to think things through and to think about the long-term effect. Who is this going to affect in the long term? Who's this going to affect tomorrow, a week from now, a year from now? Teenagers don't really think that through, and that's okay because that comes with time, that comes with age, that comes with experience. But you do have the ability as a teenager to make good choices, especially like choosing not to vape. So what does an e-cigarette look like? E-cigarettes can take on many different shapes and forms, and they can vary in name. What? So e-cigarettes can take on many different shapes and forms, and they can vary in name. I have listed some of the common brands of vape devices. There's the Juul, which is the most common and takes on about 75% of the vaping market, the e-cigarette market. There's also the Blue, the Vapor, the Vaporfy, the Fix, the Soren Air, MyJet, and Pulse. Some of you may know of some other brands that I did not include. These are examples of what some of these devices look like. So you can take a minute to look. And this is just so if you ever see this, maybe your friends or siblings are using these things or have them in their book bag or their pockets, just so you're aware of what they are. So how harmful are e-cigarettes? So e-cigarettes are a source of extremely high doses of particles in the human respiratory system. These particles have been linked to cardiovascular disease, heart disease. Nicotine is so much more addictive to the immature teenage brain compared to the developed adult brain. And we talked earlier about the teenage brain and how the brain is still developing up until age 25. So as a teenager, you're more vulnerable to becoming addicted to these substances versus an adult. And even a little bit of nicotine can lead to ADHD-like symptoms, such as compulsive behavior, irritability, inability to focus and stay calm and still. And these behaviors contribute to classroom behavior. Teachers are observing this and are concerned with the irritability, the struggle to focus. When it's really nicotine use, it sometimes confuses people, confuses teachers about what's really going on behaviorally, mentally, emotionally, when it's really just a substance use issue. There is some evidence that nicotine primes the brain for other addictions. So being younger, again, you're more vulnerable to other addictions. And you may have heard nicotine and cigarettes are a gateway drug to other harder drugs. But evidence shows that that's true. Drinking nicotine in the e-juice is harmful and possibly fatal for babies and toddlers. So just think about if ingesting this type of substance is deadly for babies and toddlers, yet teenagers who are just a few years older than these toddlers and babies are inhaling it and ingesting these substances, it's deadly for them. Think about how harmful it is for teenagers. There's also you're risking, when you vape, you're risking nicotine overdose. How many of you have ever heard of that? It's something, it's possible. I know it might sound a little crazy because when we think of overdose, sometimes we think about harder drugs like heroin and alcohol poisoning and things like that. Pill overdose, things like that. But nicotine overdose is legit. It's a real thing. What does nicotine overdose look like? Rapid heart rate, nauseous, vomiting, diarrhea, dizziness, maybe shakes, seizures, elevated blood pressure. Your blood pressure is really high, and again, possibly seizures, and worst case scenario, death. So as of October 22nd, so around this time last year, 1,604 cases of e-cigarette or vaping product use associated lung injury, EVALI, have been reported to the CDC from 49 states. 34 deaths have been confirmed in 24 states. All patients have reported a history of using vaping products. Updated numbers as of February 18th, 2020, 2,807 cases had been reported from all 50 states, and there were 68 deaths. So think about that. Those numbers are increasing, the deaths are increasing, the cases are increasing as vaping and e-cig use increases. So what are health risks for young people who use vapes? Well, it affects your brain, it affects your heart, it affects your lungs, your breathing, it affects your mind, body, soul, brain. According to current research, we know there are health risks when people use these products. When a young person uses nicotine, changes occur in the brain, making addiction much more likely. And again, the young person's more vulnerable to addiction. Many e-cigs and vaping devices have nicotine. Some people think it's just liquid or juice, but it's not. It's nicotine and other harmful chemicals. And these are known to have negative effects on the heart. Nicotine is a stimulant. It makes you alert, makes you awake, increases your heart rate, your blood pressure. The aerosols produced by the chemicals in e-liquid enter into the user's lungs and leave a chemical residue behind in the throat and in the lungs. And these products haven't been around for years and years and years for researchers to have done years and years of experiments and studies. So long term, who knows how that chemical, what it's going to do to you, how it's going to affect you 30, 40, 50 years from now. We don't know because, again, those products are so new. It also causes ear, eye, and throat irritation. Those things are very common among e-cig vape Juul users. So take a quick minute to think whether you think, I'm going to ask a question. I want you to read it and determine whether you think it's a myth or a fact. So the chemicals found in e-cigs and vapes can cause breathing problems and lung disease. Do you think that's a myth or a fact? Okay, if you thought fact, you were right. Nicotine amounts. So if you take a look on the screen, a pack of cigarettes, 20 cigarettes in a box, 40 drops of e-liquid equals a pack of cigarettes. So it's crazy to think that all those cigarettes are equivalent to all of those drops of liquid. A little Juul pod equivalent to a pack of cigarettes. Again, a little Juul pod, if you've ever seen it, it's maybe a little bigger than a quarter, maybe 2 quarters put together. So 1 Juul pod equals 20 cigarettes. That's crazy. That's a lot of nicotine. And then again, 1 large cigarette, again, equivalent to a pack of cigarettes. So take another minute. Let me know what you think, myth or fact. Because e-cigs were made to help adults quit smoking, they're safe for everyone to use. What do you think, myth or fact? Myth. So a little history about vaping devices. They were designed to help adults quit smoking. An adult who's been smoking for 30, 40 years, a pack of cigarettes a day, have become really addicted to the nicotine and to the habit of smoking. So these devices were designed, these companies worked with health insurance companies to work together to help adults quit smoking. It's a form of nicotine treatment. Over time, and you know, these things actually did the opposite of what it was designed to do, because now more teenagers are becoming addicted. So instead of helping an adult quit, these products are now being picked up by younger people who are becoming addicted to them sooner, and they're becoming lifelong customers because these things are so addictive. So the CDC, Center for Disease Control, tobacco product use among high school students in 2018. This is a chart. These are facts recorded, research was done, studies were done. If you take a look at all these high school students who were studied and surveyed, about 27% of all high school students in the United States have reported any tobacco product use. About 20%, almost 21% of all high school students reported e-cig usage. About 8% reported cigarette smoking, 7.6% cigars, 5.9% smokeless tobacco, 4.1% hookah, 1.1 pipe tobacco. So again, that's about a third of all high school students in the United States 2 years ago had reported using any tobacco product. I bet you these numbers, being that it's 2020, 2 years ago, 2 years later, these numbers are probably higher. Additional concerns. So is it starting a new behavior? Are you learning about these things, these substances, these tricks, the tricks done with the vape and the vape smoke? Is it starting a new behavior? Is it a gateway to other substances? Again, being a teenager, your brain is still developing. You're more vulnerable to trying new substances and becoming addicted to them. Some e-cigs and vapes have other types of drugs in them. That's something to think about. We don't always know what's in them. You know, I'm sure you're told, you know, I won't even say that. I won't go there. Young people might not know that many of these products have nicotine in them, like the Juul. Some kids just think that they're smoking flavors. They have these companies make cool flavors to attract kids. There's flavors like gummy bear and bubble gum and cotton candy and cherry, and so there's these cool, fun flavors, but they're not just flavor and water and it's air. You know, it's harmful nicotine, which again is a very, very addictive substance. Some other risks to young people. We're risking nicotine addiction, a toxicity, nicotine poisoning, similar to alcohol poisoning, nicotine poisoning, along with nicotine overdose, injuries and poisonings, dangers of inhaling aerosol, gum disease from putting this nicotine in your mouth, vapor's cough, which is a cough that you'll have as long as you're smoking. You'll have this cough. It sounds horrible. Unknown long-term effects. Again, these products are still new and just coming out. So no long-term research has been done to know how over 30, 40 years of using these substances, what's going to happen to your body and your brain. And then again, you're increasing chances of using other nicotine products. A lot of kids that I talked to who started vaping had never touched any other tobacco or nicotine substance before. Now they're starting to smoke cigarettes, or they're smoking, or they're dipping the chewing tobacco, or they're smoking cigarettes and cigars or black and milds when a vape isn't available. And again, vaping can lay the foundation for addiction. The brain is still growing until you're about age 25. Each time a new memory is created or a new skill is learned, stronger connections are built between your brain cells. The brain is learning every time you vape or you smoke, you're learning how a drug like nicotine works, and the brain likes it and begins to crave it the more and more you do it. When you're young, again, it's so much easier to get addicted. And the cycle of addiction. So when someone smokes or vapes, nicotine is absorbed, dopamine in the brain is released. Dopamine is a chemical. It's a feel-good chemical. It makes you feel good. It makes you want to do it more. People like how that feels. Dopamine is also released when you go on a roller coaster, or you eat a really good dessert, or like a brownie sundae. Yum, how good does that sound? Dopamine's released. We like that. We like how it makes us feel good. Same thing when you smoke. That's when you get the motivation to repeat. Well, I want to feel that way again. That made me feel so good. I'm going to go do it again. So you get the motivation to repeat. The more and more you do it, the tolerance develops. You have to do more to get the same dopamine released. You smoke more, you do more to get the same effect, to get the same feel-good feeling. And again, you have to increase the dose. Once the tolerance develops, cravings and withdrawal symptoms, you crave the substance when you don't have it, whether it's a few hours, a few days, you crave it. Your brain wants it. Your brain wants to feel good. Your body wants to feel good. Or you develop withdrawal symptoms without it. Once you're addicted, your body craves it. withdrawal symptoms look like that of nicotine overdose. You crave it, you shake, you have diarrhea, your stomach hurts, you're coughing. All you can think about is when you can get the next one. You can't focus. School's not a priority, friends aren't a priority. You just want that next hit. So I just briefly touched on nicotine withdrawal. You get the cravings, headache, nauseous, fatigue, maybe you're drowsy, you have anxiety, you're irritable, stomach issues, your heart rate is erratic and your blood pressure is up. Maybe you have difficulty concentrating, maybe you're depressed, maybe you're more hungry than usual or less hungry, you have no appetite. Vaping linked, so vaping in COVID-19. Vaping, there has been a link to COVID-19 risk. So with this COVID-19 being so new to us, it's been said that when you're more, if you do vape and you're a smoker, you're more likely to get COVID-19. Your lungs, you're more vulnerable to it. Same with pneumonia, same with bronchitis. Smokers, you might know a smoker who maybe not necessarily they smoke vaping devices, but maybe a cigarette smoker. They're more likely to get bronchitis every winter, or they get pneumonia every winter, or they get colds more than people who don't smoke. You might have noticed that. Data collected in May 2020, so just a few months ago, shows that teenagers and young adults who vape face a much higher risk of COVID-19 than their peers who don't vape. And this is studies and research done by Stanford. There's also lung damage, brain development, trouble with that, issues with that. Okay, so myth or fact, tell me what you think. 1 Juul pod is equivalent to a pack of cigarettes. Myth or fact? Try to think back to a couple of slides ago when we talked about this. So those of you who thought fact, that's it, that's right. So tips on resisting. So just say no, right? If you look over at the picture on the right side, when you say yes to others, make sure you're not saying no to yourself, right? How true is that? Simply say no thanks. Make an excuse. If you know these substances or these devices are going to be around, if you're invited to a friend's house or a party, if you don't feel comfortable with going, make an excuse not to go. Oh, I have homework to do, or oh, I have to go to my grandmom's house. Oh, I have to go to work. Make up an excuse. Stand up to peer pressure. If you believe something in your heart, you don't want to do it, you're totally against it, stick to that. Stick up for yourself. No, period, is a complete sentence. So you don't even have to give an excuse. Just say no. You can leave the situation. If you're at a friend's house, or you're at work, or you're even in the bathroom at school, and I hate to say that, and you see these things happening in these situations, in these environments, leave. Just walk out, walk home, go away, leave it. Or totally avoid the situation. If you know this time of day, there's a group of kids at the bus stop or walking home from school, maybe take another way home, or maybe use another bathroom. If you're invited to a party on the weekend, this is going to be there. And not just when it comes to resisting, not just with vaping and cigarettes, but marijuana, any kind of substance, alcohol. If you know it's going to be there, avoid it. And again, follow your gut, follow your instinct. Don't be afraid to follow your instinct. If you have values, that's great. Stick to them. How to help yourself or a friend. If you or a friend is using these substances and you're concerned whether you're becoming addicted to them or you think your friend is becoming addicted to them, talk to a parent, talk to a teacher, talk to a counselor or an adult that you trust. Come talk to me. Express your care and concern for that person. Listen, encourage, share, and support that person. Remember, some things should not be kept a secret. If somebody is talking to you about wanting to hurt themselves or to hurt somebody else, or if they are hurting themselves, tell an adult. Those things are not meant to be kept secret. And thank you for watching today. Here's my email address. If you want to email me, you can check out my Bitmoji classroom. If you click on that link, I have a Bitmoji classroom with a bunch of different resources. Feel free to check it out. Thanks.